Welcome to this portal tutorial. In this video, I'm going to show you how to build your own customized reports using the new Customized Analytics feature. To do so, go ahead and log into your account, and then we're going to go to the Analytics tab. If you don't see the Reports or Analytics tab, it's based on the security settings in the system. You can contact data@thecouncil.org, and we can work with you regarding that. Once we are in the Analytics tab, we're just going to click on through to get where we need to go. So we're going to click on Surveys, and then Views Dashboard. And this will show you the different sections of the data that you have access to. So, for example, I have the basic assurances. I also have the personal outcome measures. I'm going to go ahead and pull up the personal outcome measures and show you the tutorial from here. But you can, everything that we're doing here, you can do with the basic assurances section as well. So the first step is to create a new template. So we're going to click Create New View. And from here, it'll ask us to name the template. So my new template is, and then you can add a little description if you want to help tell them apart. Then we're going to create view. Now we're going to add the different items. So to do so, go ahead and click Add an Item. And then a box will pop up, and this will allow us to select what type of view or element we'd like to add. Element in this case is the graphics or the tables. That's what that language means. So there's actually about 20 different elements you can add to set up your template. So we're going to click this element type dropdown and select one of the three overarching categories: data grid, counts, and pivot, and I'm going to walk you through each one. So we'll start with data grid. Underneath data grid, which is kind of a table that shows data in it, there's a bunch of different what's called render types. You can get a traditional table, you can do a horizontal bar, which is a graphic and displayed horizontally, or a vertical bar. We'll start with table. From here, we can present our data in the table a few different ways. We can do a data listing. We'll start with that one. And a data listing, it basically displays all the data qualitatively in a table. So this might be best for comments or notes, so you can see all those for different sections. So if I want to see, for example, the notes section for abuse, I can type in the beginning. You can either scroll down and select the item you want, or you can type in some of the words. So I'm going to type in notes. I want to see the notes for the personal outcome measures, or the outcome for abuse. And you can add multiple too. If you wanted to do, for example, if you wanted to do abuse and safety, just scroll on down to safety. Here we go. And you can see it shows them both now. Now I'm going to name this graphic abuse and safety notes. And then I can add any little notes I wanted to reference, and then hit save. So as I mentioned, the data listing under the data grid is most useful for showing comments or notes. Next up, we have the national data comparison. Here's the display preview of what it looks like. This national data comparison compares your organization's data with the national data for every question that you select. So the best use is for example, on the personal outcome measures, would be comparing outcomes or supports or even individual indicators or probes to our national benchmarks. And again, you can add multiple questions or just a single question here. And then you would name the item. The next template is the negative counts table. This shows you the no or not present answers for binary questions. So questions where the answers are yes or no, or for example, the outcome questions, if it's present or not present, or the basic assurances items where it's in place or not in place. So for example, if you want to examine how many people don't have an outcome present, this template might be useful for you, especially if you wanted to examine disparities. The next element is the positive counts. It's very similar to the negative counts, except it shows the items that are either yes or present, and it shows the percentage. So for example, if you wanted to see the average numbers of outcomes present for each of the sample, you could go in here, type outcomes, and go ahead and click each one, and then they would all show up in a table, and at the bottom of the table, you could see it counts the average number of positives per person, so how many items are present, and then the percentage that was present. So that would give you a good idea of, across all of your sample, how many outcomes are present. We're going to move on to the horizontal bar. This is very similar to the tables, except it shows things graphically. So you have the same options underneath the horizontal bar. You have the national data comparison, which is very similar to the table, except you can see that it shows, instead of two columns in the table, two different bar charts horizontally with the percentage of items that are present for your organization as well as for the national data set. This negative count horizontal bar shows you the no or not present answer for binary questions more visually. Same with the positive counts. It shows you the present or yes answers visually. And again, you can add multiple items too, so you have a listing of multiple questions, the same chart. The vertical bar is very similar to the horizontal bar, it just displays things vertically instead of horizontally. So again, you have the national data comparison and the negative and positive counts. I'll just show you an example. It goes vertically instead of horizontally. Let's move on to the counts type. So counts, there are 4 options. There's a horizontal bar, pie chart, table, and vertical bar. Horizontal bar, it displays the answer options for a single question, including the N and percentages, but numerically, as well as using a graphic. The pie chart presents you with another way to display your information via pie chart to see visually differences in the question that you select. Table, this displays the answer options for a single question, including the N. And then finally, under counts, we have the vertical bar, which displays the answer options for a single question, including the N in a vertical bar. Next is the pivot section. Pivots allow you to examine the relationships between variables, and sometimes they're called crosstabs. So we have a few different options under pivot. We have a grouped horizontal bar, a nested pie chart, a table, or a grouped vertical bar. We'll start off with the grouped horizontal bar. So as I mentioned, this allows you to examine relationships or differences between two different variables. So for example, this template, we could examine differences in outcomes depending on gender. The nested pie chart, this allows you to compare differences or look at relationships between two items using a nested pie chart or what's called sometimes a donut chart. So you could see here, this example is comparing if the answer is yes or no for differences between men and women. The pivot table allows you to find out the N and percentages for all the groups in a crosstab and displays it numerically instead of using a figure. And finally, the group vertical bar. This template, we could examine, for example, the differences in outcomes depending on gender, but the bar is vertical instead of horizontal. So those are the main elements in the system. And once you select the element you want, for example, we use this one, we'll look at abuse depending on gender. It'll auto-populate the name. We could add notes if we wanted to. We hit save. It'll add the item here, and it'll populate it. If you wanted to add a few more, We could go back to add another item, select the item we're interested in, hit save, and it'll add it right below. And you can use the arrow, up and down arrow is how you can swap the order of the items. You can see I put it up top. The edit, the little pencil is to edit. You could change the element and delete it. The trash can, of course, is delete. So they say this is the template we want. Now that we've got it all set up, we're going to go into a few more options. So you see anytime there's this little arrow on the left-hand side right here, that means there's a drop-down. So if you click that drop-down, there's a few options. Profile data was where we put the name and the description in. View elements is where we're at right now, where we can add new items or edit or move them around. Filters you're probably familiar with the rest of our system. It allows you to filter information. So for example, that respect question, if I only wanted to see the answers for people that lived in, say, their own homes, we could filter out the rest of the information. Now, all the templates, when you're viewing them finished, they'll allow you to filter by all this information. But say, for example, you wanted to limit what other people were able to filter with. The way you could do that is you could select just the items you want people to be able to filter by. Say, for example, gender, interviewee, and this question filter. If I wanted to do, this question filter allows you to filter by any question in the personal outcome measures. I typically find it useful to filter by the demographic question about the certification status of the interviewer, because I tend to use certified data. So I click that and I could say, I only want data from certified interviewers that are current. Alternatively, leave some variables. Maybe you want multiple categories, you could select multiple. So for example, if you were looking at the type of disability and maybe you wanted certain disabilities included and wanted multiple, you could select multiple. And then I click update to save. So now when people are using this template, it'll default and it'll automatically be set up so they're filtering by certification status, and then also it'll allow them to filter by gender and interviewee. If I want people to be able to filter by any variable, I would just leave all these unclicked and it would do that. The next item on the list is organizational security. Organizational security and user security, these are how you share your template with people. So if you want to share it with everyone at your organization, you would do so in organizational security. If you want to just share it with certain users at your organization, you would do user security. So we'll walk through both right now. Start off with organizational security. So your view here might depend on how your organization is set up. So for example, if you're just a single organization, it'll look more simple. But if you function more like an umbrella, say for example, we work with the state of Tennessee and the Tennessee is at the top of the umbrella and all the agencies are underneath, then you might see level 3 is at the top of the umbrella and what's called level 4 is all the different agencies underneath. And if you have questions about this, contact me at data@council.org and I'm happy to walk you through it. But from here, what you'd want to do, if you want to give access to everyone in your organization and you have that more simple structure where you're just a single organization in the system. You know, if test 1 was my organization, I would just click assign org, means assign access to everyone in the organization. And then you'll see on this left-hand side, it'll show up here. And if you want to get rid of it, you would just click the red X. Now, if you're a more complex setup in the system, like Tennessee, as I mentioned, the org would be the level you're at, and the children would be anyone underneath that umbrella. So say, for example, Tennessee, I am at the top of the umbrella, and I want to assign it to all the organizations underneath. So then I would click assign org and children. And it would give access to everyone. Or if I'm at the top of that umbrella and I only wanted people at the top to be able to access, then I could hit assign org. I recognize there are special cases, so if this is confusing for you, please contact me and I'm happy to walk you through it. Now, if you didn't want to give access to your entire organization, but rather just a few users, you would go into user security. And this would show you all the users that are in your organization and only those users that have what we call the power level access. So those are the users who have access to the reports and analytics features of the system. What we call standard users only have the ability to enter surveys. They don't have access to your data. So if you need to get people switched between standard and power access, contact me at data@thecouncil.org and I can work that out with you. Otherwise, only the power users will show here. So say, for example, I wanted to give access to Dwight Adams. What I just do is click on his name. He would pop up on the left-hand side, and then Dwight would have access to this template that I've set up. So now that we've gone through all the settings, we actually want to use this template. Even though when we were setting up the elements, it gave us a preview of the data, it wasn't actually the finished template. So what we'll do is we see now my new template is showing up in all my templates. So here are all the standard ones. The ones with the little pencils are ones that I've created that I can edit. Some of the other ones that say custom analytics are ones that people have shared with me. So I'm going to click on my view template. And if you click the pencil, it allows you to edit it. But if you click the rest of the text, it allows you to actually open this finished template. So you can see, I remember I added those two questions, the one about respect and then the one about abuse by gender. So you can see here's that data right here. The bottom tells me how many surveys are included, which is useful. And then remember, I set up that filter, so it automatically filters by just the certified data. I can edit those filters by clicking applied filters, and I can, change the dates, add some of the other filters. I can filter by another question if I wanted to, and then hit update. So say, for example, I only wanted to see data from certain disability. So I could click diagnosis, where's the disability information, and say I only wanted to see data for people with autism spectrum disorder and behavioral challenges. I'm interested in both. But click those, then click filter, and now it filter out everything other than those two disabilities and just show me people with autism spectrum and behavioral challenges. And here you go. If you want to get rid of that filter, you just hit apply filter. Then change it back to how it was in the beginning. Another useful thing for filters is what you could do is using the start date and end date. You could do, for example, just your data for the first quarter, that type of thing, or that year. And then always hit filter when you're done and it'll update. From here, you have a few different options to export the data. You could either, this little floppy disk icon allows you to save just as individual graphic. So I could click that and it'll download the graphic as an image file. Or I could hit this little, and it'll only do as individual graphic, or I could hit the print button. And it'll just print this individual graphic. Or if I want to print the whole thing, I could click the printer view in the top right-hand corner. It opens the whole thing. And most modern computers, they allow you to quote unquote print as a PDF. So to do so, I could hit print this page, the printer dialog box will open up. And then Brother is my real printer. I could also change it to save as a PDF. And I could hit save, and then it'll ask me where I want to save it. So you have a few different options of how you export. And the last thing I just want to show you is, say you want to get rid of your template, you no longer need it. You go ahead and you would click the pencil icon to edit it. It would bring you back to the profile page, whereas if you wanted to make any other changes, you could click the drop down on the left-hand side. But here, I just want to inactivate the template, so I would just switch it to inactive and then hit update. And keep in mind, this inactivates the template for all the users that you gave access, so nobody will be able to use this. Then I would click back, and you see it's no longer showing. Another thing to note, as you're sharing templates, people will be able to edit the filters they use, but they will not be able to edit the templates themselves. Only the person who creates the template is able to edit them. This is the end of the tutorial. If you have any questions, you can email us at data@thecouncil.org, and we'll be happy to help you.